Yeah, you're ready to go on now. Sorry, Matt. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Matt Hoe, and I created an animated POL. So, I'm going to tell you a story. There once was a boy who liked to dream big. He was a 12-year-old kid beginning his 7th grade year, in the throes of uncomfortable bodily changes, learning important life lessons such as trying the cool dance moves that his dad had suggested to do at his first school dance was probably not the best idea. Despite these trials and tribulations of early adolescence, he watched the world with eyes wide open, with an increasingly loose understanding of the word limitation. He saw in hues of color and opportunity, spent his nights trying to understand the world and his days dreaming about changing it. His mind was his legs, and his school was his playground. But as his perspective grew, his playground shrank, and he needed more. So he went out and found a new place to stretch his legs. That place was Mid-Pack, and that kid was me. So fast forward about 3 years into the future. I'm at an interesting point in my life right now. I'm sort of having a teenage midlife crisis, and before all of you parents out there start rolling your eyes, hear me out. Because while I'm not dyeing my hair blonde while using my retirement funds to buy a Porsche, I am wondering where my life is going. I look at myself and wonder where I'm going to be in 10 years, and to a 16-year-old, that's a daunting thought. So I suppose what you can call what I'm about to share with you, my quarter-life crisis. Now, I do have some ideas about what I want to be when I grow up, like I want to be happy, for instance. And yes, while I hope to be happy sounds like a pseudo-insightful, overly optimistic Hallmark card, it's really the main thing that I want in life. Now, the question that I ask myself is, how do I fit that elusive life happiness into the equation for a well-paying, stable, 9-to-5 job, hopefully with health insurance? Well, let's work backwards a little bit. The first thing that I did was I created a list of things that I wanted to do in life, a short bucket list of sorts. Some of the things on the list was be happy, start doing more yoga, go on a meditation retreat, create art in the city of my dreams, travel around the world, smile more, become an expert in something, and live in the moment. But I realized that the question really is, why do I want to be these things? Why is the most important question you can ask. It's even more important than what. The most inspired people in the world ask why before they even ask what or even how. There's a reason that Martin Luther King's speech was, I have a dream, and not, I have a plan. So, how do I get these things? Well, the things on my list here are why I want to do things in my life. I want to create beauty. I want to know myself. I want to be healthy and physically fit. I want to have human connection. I want to be mindful. I want to pursue knowledge. I want to help people. And I want to be spiritual. And two of the main topics or job careers that jumped out at me were artist and psychologist. Because as an artist, I can create beauty, and as a psychologist, I can pursue knowledge, and I can get to know myself and help people with both. I realized that art is simply our way of sharing our innermost thoughts, and psychology is simply our way of understanding why we have those thoughts. So because of that, I decided that I'd be a psychologist with art as a hobby. Now, how has MPX helped me? Well, psychology is a social science, which is basically social studies and science. I'm going to focus on the social studies portion first. Psychologists have been going over the topic of conformity for years, and more specifically, why perceived good people can do bad things. 3 projects that really helped me grasp this topic was the Slavery Project, Internment Project, and Mock Trial Project. With the Slavery Project, we were tasked with learning more about slave life. And I wanted to learn about the social aspect of slavery and how a slave would feel being held in captivity. So I created a cinepoem, which is basically a poem with a video attached to it, and this is a very, very short clip of what I got. It's about 30 seconds long or less.
I feel the sting of the whip, it tastes bitter like death. I am devoured by a defiant thing made of wood, the sustenance of a monster, forsaken in the dark underbelly of hell, as angels of death walk above the light.
So, My next project was the Japanese internment project. For the Japanese internment project, we were tasked to learn more about the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. And I found this very interesting. We researched, we asked guest speakers who were actually in the internment camps to come into our class and speak to us, and we conducted, the conclusion of our project was when we put on a poetry slam with poems written by internees. And this, what I'm going to show you next, is my poem during that poetry slam.
Hello, my name is Matt Hoe, and I'm performing an excerpt from Legends from Camp by Ross Nagana. It's about the writer's journey through internment and where he is now. The situation obviously was rather confusing. It obviously confused simple people who had simply assumed they were friends, neighbors, colleagues, partners, patients, customers, students, teachers, not so much aliens or non-aliens, but likewise simple, unassuming people who pay taxes as fellow citizens and populated pews and desks and fields and places of ordinary American society and commerce. Rumors flew, landed. What's what? Who's next? And then, just like that, it happened. And then, just like that, it was over. Sun, moon, stars, they came and went. And then things happened. And as they ended, they kept happening. And as they happened, they ended and began again, happening until the event, the experience, the history, slowly began to fade into kind of fiction. A true story based on fact, but nevertheless with all the elements of fiction. And then, sun, moon, stars, we come. We come to where we are. Legend. Thank you.
And the last project that we did was a mock trial project. We had been reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and I'm sure as all of you guys know, the main question that that comes up while people are reading that was Mark Twain racist? So we actually went to a real courthouse and conducted a mock trial to see whether Mark Twain was racist or not. We compiled evidence and we tried him in a systematic manner. Now, all of these three projects tie together because they all have to do with conformity. Why do good people do bad things? It was interesting to know that at one point in time, people thought it was okay to enslave their brothers and sisters of the world. It was interesting to know that our very government interned Japanese Americans for no reason other than the fact that they were Japanese. And this is extremely scary, and it scares me so much. But I'm also happy that I'm learning about these things in MPX, because without that, who's to say that these things can't happen again? Now, how has MPX STEM helped me? Well, being a psychologist has a lot to do with analysis, science, and math, and I think that's important that I'm learning it now, since psychology is a science. First project that we did, or that is ongoing now, is the exhibit project. We were tasked to create a physics exhibit to demonstrate a physics topic around the school, and we decided that we would create a giant water prism to demonstrate the effect of light refraction. And light refraction works because when white light travels through a medium, it slows down, and because of the shape of the prism and the different wavelengths of each color, they refract in different directions, thus a rainbow appears. And I think this is kind of interesting and ties into Mid-Pack because not only did it help me and other people learn about an interesting physics topic, but it also plays into Mid-Pack's commitment to academic and artistic excellence. Now, this project, the math video, was actually not an assigned project. I did it just for extra credit because I realized that teenagers usually don't like listening to long math lectures, just surprise, surprise. So I created a short and sweet and to the point math video about the subject of imaginary numbers, or rather the imaginary number I. So here's my video. Today we're going to be talking about I. But what is I? Well, we call I an imaginary number, which basically means it doesn't exist. So at this point, you're probably pretty frustrated with math. At first, they gave us these numbers, and I was like, alright, I can do this. But then they gave us these numbers that actually look like letters. And now you're telling me that they're giving me numbers that kind of look like letters, but also sort of kind of don't exist? Why are you doing this to me, math? Well, don't worry, this number, letter, imaginary friend thing that we call I is actually pretty easy to understand. I is defined as the square root of -1. That's the problem. Negative numbers don't have square roots, because a negative times a negative will always equal a positive. So, the next time you want to use the square root of -1, just use I. So, I think that these two projects really helped me in what could be a potential psychology career, because psychology isn't only about how do you feel about this, how does that make you feel? It's about understanding the world through a scientific lens. It's a way of extracting knowledge from someone's mind and applying that knowledge to help other people and help our global community. And in order to do this, we have to use the scientific method and we have to use math. Now finally, the lessons that I've learned in MPX have been invaluable. I've been taught not what to think, but how to think. I've run on the racetracks of knowledge, knowing that I have something to give to the world. And while I am sad that I am leaving the program, I'm awfully excited for the future. So, since this is my last POL, I'll leave you with this. Never be afraid to be that little kid who looks at the world with eyes wide open. Always have a dream and know exactly why you want it. And when you're chasing that dream, never be afraid to stretch your legs, because a dream can be the most profound story you will ever tell. And who knows, maybe in 10 years, I'll tell the story of this very moment. And that story will begin with, there once was a boy who liked to dream big. Thank you so much. Any questions, comments, concerns?
When, during this process of being an MPX student, did you fail?
Did I fail?
And what did you learn?
That's an interesting question, because I think MPX is about, as silly as it sounds, it's about failure. It's about learning that failure isn't bad. Failure is neither good nor bad, it's learning. You learn something from every experience, and through failure, sometimes failure can be the best lesson that you can learn. I think that in every project that I've done, I have failed in a certain degree. And I'm not saying that by saying that I didn't do the project or I didn't finish it to my standards. It's that with everything, nothing can be perfect. And that's a beautiful thing, because if nothing can be perfect, there's always room for improvement.
Oh. Is there anything that you learned or you practiced that will help you thrive in like traditional classes next year?
I think that project management and time management definitely ties into my classes next year, because I realized that MPX kind of mirrors the real world, because you're going to be given a project and then you have to finish that project on time, and you have to do it for yourself so you don't get fired. Whereas in regular classes, you do it to get a grade, you do it because the teacher tells you to do it. And I think the fact that I have time management skills and I do work because I want to do the work now will probably help me next year in my classes, because I'll have a certain amount of autonomy in everything that I do.
If you were going to have a chance to meet with next year's incoming MPX 9th graders, actually this is a question for all of you students, something that we want to talk about next week. What counsel would you give them? What would you tell them about what to expect, what it's going to feel like, where you start from and where you end up. I'm curious.
Like I said before, everything in life is about a dream. Everything in life is about the why. Why of the situation? What's the story? What's your motivation? So I would tell the incoming MPX students to find their why. Like I said before when I talked about midlife crisis, people have midlife crisis because they didn't figure out the why early enough in their life. And MPX is a great thing because it helps you find your why. So I would tell them to find why they're doing something, what inspires them, and just do it. Well,
if Midpack chooses to expand their MPX class size, perhaps maybe to a whole grade level, do you think it would benefit them greatly?
well, I think that I'm not one of those people that is going to push my program onto everyone, like, this is my agenda, because that's not how life works. Life works by making choices, because you know yourself, and you know your academic needs, and you know what you need to get something done. And if what you need to get something done is traditional learning, then go for it. Like I said before, life isn't about finding happiness and contentment in a specific place. It's about being able to find it wherever you go. So.
What do you think is the biggest difference between the Matt who entered MPX in 9th grade to the Matt who is exiting now?
Well, I guess I could talk about the POL. On my first POL, I was literally like sweating bullets, and like I thought I was gonna have a panic attack. And right now, like, I feel like I could take a nap up here. So, or maybe not take a nap, but I could relax, you know, like chill and like have a conversation. And I think that's important because MPX has taught me valuable communication skills. I think I heard a statistic once that the greater indicator of success in life is not high school grades, but how amicable you are and how able you are to communicate with the people around you. And so I think that these communication skills have been profoundly valuable for me. Not only that, but I think MPX has helped me, like I said before, find my why, find what I want to do in life. For instance, I've been thinking about like why I want to do things in life, and I've realized that like all of it comes down to happiness. Like, why do we work out? Like, why do we go on trips? Why do we go to school? Well, we do all those things because we want to be happy. In the end, it all comes down to happiness. And so like over the summer, I'm doing a research project about happiness where I'm researching the psychological and social aspects of it, as well as interviewing people and reading books on social psychology and whatnot. And without MPX, I probably wouldn't be doing things like this because I wouldn't have my why.
So, as your brother, I know quite a bit about you, but I guess I want to know more. So, I didn't know you had such an interest in psychology. As a former psychology major, I was kind of interested in how MPX developed this, or?
Well, I think, like I said before, psychology is, while it is about like personal, about the mind, it's also about how we communicate with each other on a general level in society. And I think that MPX school is more like a microscope. Like, it forces you into things that you wouldn't always learn, and it forces you into the specifics. It forces you to learn, you know, A equals negative B, you know? But MPX draws you out of that, and it becomes more like a telescope. And you see the stars, and you realize that the universe is huge, and you start to understand people on a deeper level. And you start to understand the interplay, the beautiful interplay between everything in our world. And I think as a psychologist, that's a really important skill to have, to be able to look at the bigger picture and not only focus on a specific data set. Well,
as a psychologist, you will meet an inconsistency at one point where you'll have maybe one or two patients where they'll just be completely different from the rest of the group, and the basic and your base methods for curing them or helping them won't work. So what do you plan to do when you get that point?
I don't believe that someone is unfixable, and I don't believe that we have something innate inside of us that stops us from reaching our full potential, because everyone can reach their full potential, whatever that is. And so what I would say to that is, we all come from the same place. At one point, we were all just little single-celled organisms floating in the ocean, and we all have the same dreams and aspirations, and even if the what is different, I think in the end, our whys are all the same. And because of that, I don't think that anyone is incurable. I think that the world is not as simple and black and white as that.
Sorry, allow me to ask a second question. When someone doesn't fit the mold quite well, do you change the mold or do you change the person? Which do you think would be best?
I don't believe in a mold at all. I don't believe that there is a human mold. Because while we all have similarities, we're all beautifully different people, and that's why the world is so interesting. For me, like, I'm a kind of peculiar guy. I'm into like weird stuff. Like, I enjoy, you know, like doing math problems. Like when I was a little kid, like I'd do like one math problem for like 6 hours straight just because I was interested in it. And, you know, like, I'm a different person, but I'm no different than everyone else because I think everyone else is very different. And I don't think you should change the person. It's not society's job. It's not the person's job to fit society, but rather society's job to fit the person.
And I'm afraid we're out of time, so we need to end it now.
Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.